Peace, love, and blessings, fam. Day 38 of Wisdom of the Ages. If you've missed the previous recordings, you can find them on YouTube at Loyalty Life, spelled Lyfe, Legacy, LLC. Let's get into day 38 Agelessness. From Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. Father William, after softening. You are old, Father William, the young man said, and your hair has become very white, and yet you insistently stand on your head. Do you think at your age it is right? I'm in my youth, Father William replied to his son. I feared it might injure my brain, but now that I'm perfectly sure I have none, why, I do it again and again. You are old, said the youth, as I mentioned before, and have grown most uncomfortably fat, yet you turned a back somersault in at the door. Pray, what is the reason for that? In my youth, said the sage, as he shook his gray locks, I kept all my limbs very supple, by the use of ointments, 1 shilling the box. Allow me to sell you a couple. You are old, said the youth, and your jaws are too weak for anything tougher than suit. Yet you finished the goose with the bones and the beak. Pray, how did you manage to do it? In my youth, said the father, I took to the law and argued each case with my wife, and the muscular strength which it gave to my jaw has lasted the rest of my life. You are old, said the youth. One would hardly suppose that your eye was as steady as ever, yet you balanced an eel on the end of your nose. What made you so awfully clever? I have answered 3 questions, and that is enough, said his father. Don't give yourself airs. Do you think I can listen all day to such stuff? Be off, or I'll kick you downstairs. Lewis Carroll. English author, mathematician, and photographer, Lewis Carroll is most widely known for Alice's Adventure in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass. Charles L. Dodgson was a shy English mathematician, photographer, and novelist who was deaf in one ear, spoke with a stammer, never married, yet was fascinated with and loved being around children. He was able to speak naturally and easily around children and enjoyed making up stories as he was telling them. He frequently took his young friends on picnics where his imagination created stories of Alice and her underground adventures. He recalled some 25 years after the publication of Alice's Adventures in Wonderland how, in a desperate attempt to strike out some new line of fairy lure, I had sent my heroine down a rabbit hole to begin with, without the least idea what was to happen afterwards. This hobby of telling endlessly provocative stories about a heroine named Alice would eventually become Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, and Charles Dodgson would become known as Lewis Carroll, one of the best known authors of children's books to this day. This excerpt is from that famous story first told in 1862 to a group of children who accompanied Charles as they rowed up the Thames River from Oxford to picnic on the riverbank. Today, his stories are read by children and adults the world over. Father William is a humorous ballad depicting a conversation between a son and his father, who is perceived as an old, dried-up non-entity by the child. Father Williams's responses send a twin message to all of us as we face the reality of a body that is aging, but also houses an ageless soul. These 2 messages are: 1. You are only old if you believe it. And 2. You can be expert at whatever you choose. Father William replies to each of the child's questions with a reference to his own youth, which we all know is universally ignored by children, and with a silly and ironic action response as well. He stands on his head because old age has erased the youthful idea of having a brain that needs to be protected, he proclaims. He turns back somersaults, though fat, and he chews bones, though his jaws are weak. The beauty of Lewis Carroll's writings is in the irony and the whimsy. He is telling us all that growing old is a given, and being ridiculed and misunderstood by our younger generations is to be expected. Yet, it ought to have no relevance to how we continue to function in our own lives. Father Williams's response to the young man is my signal to absolutely refuse to allow an old infirm person to enter my body. He reminds me that I can maintain an attitude of springly aliveness, and this inner decision will allow me to perform at whatever level I dictate, irrespective of age. I love this advice and I apply it every single day. For over 2 decades now, in fact, almost a quarter of a century, I have told my body that it will go out and run every single day. Regardless of whatever ailments it may be experiencing, I have instructed my body to swim in the ocean regularly and to play tennis at least 5 times a week. I tell it to walk up the stairs whenever possible rather than ride in elevators. I frequently inform it that it will walk rather than drive to its appointed rounds of chores. I tell it to do those sit-ups and abdominal crunches and to play basketball, soccer, and whatever other activities my youngsters engage in, right alongside them. Not only that, but I remind these same youngsters and their friends, with equal whimsy and lighthearted sarcasm, that I can do it all day without getting tired like they do. My bad, I paused. I'm a little tired, y'all, so forgive me. To their teasing, I say, like Father William, do you think I can listen all day to such stuff? Be off or I'll kick you downstairs. You do not have to take on an aging attitude with the natural progression of your body's journey through its life stages. You can easily give in and call yourself an old person, and with that self-label become an invalid as well as invalid. Or you can take the example of Father Williams and look your body right smack in the eye and say to it, you are not going to stop me from living fully. The second message I glean from Father Williams' nonsensical responses to his young son's inquiries is that it is unnecessary to limit ourselves to one area of expertise. You can be outstanding both as an intellectual and an athlete, even though many consider these polar opposites. As I have long heard that there are great writers and there are great speakers, but it is not possible to be great at both. These observers have told me that writers are introverted and communicate with words and paper, while speakers are extroverted who communicate with people and therefore are not generally talented in writing. I can do both, so I don't know what they're talking about. I see this as just as nonsensical as Father William saw his son's inquiries. And I choose to do both, just as I know that I can choose to enjoy listening to classical music and watching a football game, or even playing in one. You can love poetry as well as romantic novels. You can be just as much at home in a virtual reality ride at Disney World as you are in a discussion group on existentialism. There are no compartments that you have to stuff yourself into in order to know yourself. You do not need to find out what your innate interest is and then pursue one or two areas that are commensurate with your God-given talents. You can enjoy a high level of expertise in virtually any area of pursuit that you decide on. You are an eclectic rather than a one-dimensional being, and as you hear the questions put to you by those wisecracking youths who see you as dried up and limited in abilities, keep in mind Father William, the feisty character that Charles L. Dodgson, aka Lewis Carroll, created from his wildly imaginative mind, who responds by standing on his head, balancing an eel on the end of his nose, and doing somersaults while good-naturedly sending his young critic away, telling him, "Don't give yourself airs, be off, or I'll kick you downstairs." I suggest that you literally kick downstairs any and all attitudes that you may be cultivating or that you have already adopted, which identify yourself as an aging or a limited body. To get this process started, I suggest you 1. Talk to your body and force it to become more active despite its objections. If you have accustomed your body to living as a couch potato, it will resist running, walking, and being dragged through exercise routines. Note those protests and then do it anyway. 2. Resist impulses to label yourself with descriptions that limit you in any way. Statements such as, I'm not good at, or I've never been interested in, only serve to strengthen your self-image of limitation. You can be good at and enjoy anything if you decide to. 3. Put yourself through a self-improvement project that is designed to maximize your state of mind, body, and spirit. Write your own personal curriculum and apply it each day. And number 4, take classes in something new or unfamiliar, such as archery, bridge, yoga, meditation, Tai Chi, tennis, dancing, or anything that you have never experienced before. I told someone the other day that I don't practice the ritual of growing older. It was actually my children's mother, or one of them, and she said, well, what do you mean by that? I said, birthdays or solar returns, of course, are cool, especially for younger individuals who, want to feel appreciated. But me, myself, I forget how old I am. Me and my brother was talking one day, and he was like, bro, how old are we? I told him, and he was like, no, we not, bro. We a year older than that. I literally had to go type in Google. So I've stopped allowing myself to operate and celebrate the ritual of growing older every year. It's like telling my body, hey, we're getting closer to that door. Hey, we're getting closer to that door. And I just refuse to do so because I know myself and I feel as if I'm growing backwards. I used to do a backflip every year on my solar return just to see if I could still do it. Now I've grown to the point of not wanting to risk the increased heart rate, because when I go to parks and try to do it, for some reason, every time I get ready to, a random child just decides to run right by me. Or as you've seen in some of my blooper videos, I will try again because I'm not doing it consistently enough. But I'm at the point now, what am I doing to prove? I'm not trying to be a Power Ranger anymore like I was in school. And the fact is, I can increase my potential to do more by holding and harnessing that energy, which is also why I stopped doing so many peace, love, and blessings, fam, jumping out the side of the screen and all kind of stuff like that, because I can now harness and maximize that energy to do Reiki, which is a form of energy healing. So opposed to using those bursts of energy to jump out, I can use those bursts of energy to direct energy to people that may need to be healed. And I've also learned to harness that energy for myself, because that is also a creative energy which I can use at any given time. So how will you begin to practice walking in and operating in agelessness? Whatever way you choose is up to you. It's a wonderful idea no matter what you believe, but practice engaging your telomeres to begin to expand your life by changing the outlook on your body and your mind by directing thoughts towards agelessness. You can begin to grow younger too. You will unconsciously one day just want to stop drinking, maybe want to stop smoking, maybe want to change up your diet, because it's your body, your biological computer telling you, we're going to reset, we want to rock longer. So begin to allow that to take place. Once again, I thank you for being here as always, more so for yourself than for me. I appreciate you. I ask that you walk in love, walk in light, Practice agelessness, walk in peace, walk in love, and know that you are loved.